Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? This is Kyle and Mike from the Fantasy Phenom. We're back. I have returned from my vacation from Mexico. I am burnt. I'm sure you can see a little red. Mike is sitting in the snow over there, but good to be back, man. Didn't get to play any fantasy basketball at all. No DFS while I was in Mexico. I was completely blacked out. I tried different workarounds. Nothing worked. So
Hey, that means it was a true vacation. We're glad you're back though, Kyle. I probably wouldn't have wore a red shirt. It just kind of
it highlights.
amplifies the whole sunburn thing. But maybe that was what you were going for. I'm not sure, but I'm glad to be back doing these shows. It's been a great, very profitable week for me. I've somewhat hit a groove, and it's been nice. Just a different strategy I'm going with, and it's been working out. So I'm excited to get back on the show and start chopping it up with you, man.
Hell yeah, buddy. You mentioned a different strategy. What is that strategy?
No, it's not really that much of a different strategy, I guess you could say. I've just been fine-tuning my focus for each slate because with all this news coming out every slate, we saw the other day, Alan Williams, them try to pull some trickery on us and withhold the information. I guess the Suns think they're smooth. I don't know, but with all this crazy stuff going on in the NBA, you have to kind of fine tune things. I know a lot of people aren't playing cash anymore. I've heard that because of all those late swap. I mean, because of no late swap and people getting ruled out.
It's hard.
To me, I've just been kind of trusting this process of picking games that I like, picking teams that I like on this slate, and then picking teams and games that I don't like at all, and just kind of eliminating it from my player pool. And when I say I don't like them, it just could be because I think they might rest, because I think they're in a bad game, and just kind of limiting my player pool from that. Obviously, when things open up like today, I wasn't really high on the Chicago-Detroit game just because I just don't feel like those two teams play a very DFS savvy style. So I was considering fading that game, but then when all the injury news came out, or not injury news, but just some value opening up, you have to consider. If you didn't play Joffrey Laverne today, you I don't know, you missed out. So just playing smart and trying to make sure it's definitely more focused than it has been.
I think one of the thing that's really, really important is focusing on teams that are fighting for a playoff spot, right? So someone like Giannis tonight, right, who absolutely went off. Not only was he in a great spot, the Bucks are on a road trip. They're trying to just capitalize on every game they have right now. So the Bucks started this road trip they were on in 8th place. They're now up to 6th place, right? So they're clearly fighting for playoff seeding. Giannis is the leader of that team. It made sense to play Giannis tonight. Things of that nature, right? So the Bulls are fighting for a playoff spot. The Knicks are not. Hence Carmelo. That's a team that you probably don't want to target too much. Maybe KP6, but not too much. I think it's. I can't stress enough how important it is to find the teams that are fighting for playoff spots. Now, someone like the Clippers, who are safe and secure in their spot, they're not necessarily trying to move up too much. They're not necessarily going to drop anywhere. They're okay with resting players. Same with the Spurs. I don't think the Spurs care too much about that number 1 seed. Warriors are the same. Cavs are the same. You might even see it to an extent with the Wizards and Celtics down the stretch.
Yeah, I think what you're alluding to is that now more than ever, when you're using projection models, when you're building optimal lineups, when you're looking at projected stats, you have to consider game script. Yeah. Now more than ever. If things don't make sense to you as far as what's going on with these teams as far as playoffs, like you said, or what they've been doing lately with their starting lineups, if things don't make sense to you as far as they come out, you have to just look past the stats and really kind of watch these games and get an understanding of what these coaches are doing and how these players are playing from a mental standpoint as well. Yeah, I
Mike has won 2K lately.
it's
Mike,
around there. It's around there the last 2 weeks. I didn't win 2K tonight, unfortunately. It definitely dropped off a bit. I didn't have anybody late, and Giannis. I had Wall over Giannis. Both did well, but if I had made that switch, I would have won a lot more money. Definitely something I considered, but I liked the Wall Beal thing tonight, and it worked out. I made some money, so.
I had that same stack. I just had Chris Middleton as well and KCP. But yeah, so that's before we just jump into the show real quick. Mike alluded to that as well, the optimal lineups, right, and projections. Projections are harder than ever right now to formulate, and so I think at this point you want to look at more of a common sense more than numbers approach, because projections, it's even harder to project who's going to rest, how many minutes people are going to play, who's going to be in rotations, things like that, right? So relying solely on projections and numbers is a bad strategy right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think watching the games and understanding and trying to predict what's going to happen with these bench guys is so key right now. The value is so key right now because people are getting extended run when they get hot. Because why not, you know?
Yeah.
So again, it's just a combination of watching the games, targeting things, and just avoiding other things completely.
I agree. Well, without that, let's jump into tomorrow, man. We got 5 games: Clippers and Dallas. Let's start this with a playoff perspective. So we mentioned the Clippers, pretty safe in their playoff position. I don't expect any rest from them tomorrow. They're not on a back-to-back. Although, do they play Friday?
So they're actually 5 games this week. They had a back-to-back Monday and Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
They play tomorrow, and then they play Saturday and Sunday.
So I'd expect rest on either Saturday or Sunday. Then I don't think they rest tomorrow, but you never know. It wouldn't make sense to rest and then go into a back-to-back. Dallas is let me see if I can pull up the standings real quick. So I have
Dallas has proven that they're going to play until they're mathematically eliminated. I think if they were going to tank, I mean, if you recall earlier in the season, Dallas is one of the worst teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
Getting Dirk back, kind of solidifying a rotation, having Seth Curry step up has made them somewhat of a contender enough for the fact they made that trade to get an OL.
So Dallas is only 3.5 games back of the 8th seed.
Right. So I think they're going to continue to fight until they're mathematically eliminated. That's kind of just Carlisle's style as well. Games in Dallas.
So yeah, Dallas, good playoff script there. Memphis, San Antonio. Memphis is fighting. San Antonio, I mean, they've been unpredictable all year. So Memphis fully expect to fight. They are currently the 7th seed. But they have...
Problem with Memphis...
Go ahead.
Sorry. The problem with Memphis is they have fallen to the 7th seed. They have not been playing well. There's been some, I guess, discontent with the starting lineup from the coaching staff and vice versa. Really, the only guys that have been playing consistently well have been their vets.
Yeah.
Most of the guys that they've taken chances on, they're young guys. It's just not really been consistent with them. I don't know if you feel that way.
No, I agree. I mean, look at you have Vince Carter rejuvenated right now, man.
He played 35 minutes last game.
So Memphis is safe. I think Memphis is a team you can look at. New York, that's a team you pick and choose very sparingly. I don't think you team stack New York. Obviously, with them being eliminated, they've already said players are going to rest. Portland is a game and a half behind 8th place, so fighting for a playoff spot. You can definitely target Portland along with them being in a good spot. Brooklyn's the same team all year. You're going to get your 25, 24 minutes from each guy, or each of at least the backcourt. So you know what you're going to get there. Phoenix, they're just running out young guys, so you know what you're getting there. Toronto, Miami. Toronto currently is the 4th seed.
It's falling.
Yeah. So
Yes.
but they don't want to fall out of that 4th seed because if they lose that, they are out. They don't get home field or home court. So
Mm-hmm.
something to watch with Toronto, and then Miami is currently the 8th seed, and they are only a game and a half up of the Bulls. So definitely 2 playoff teams that are both going to be fighting for something there. So I think you can.
Yeah.
If I was to eliminate, and I don't want to fully eliminate, but if I was to target 2 teams to eliminate tomorrow, Clippers and Spurs. And Knicks. Sorry, those 3 teams are teams that I'm not going to have too much exposure to.
As far as paying up, I'm not going to be paying up in Toronto, and I'm not going to be paying up in for the Clippers. I think value is always going to be in play, just based on what happens with rotations, based on if you want to be sharp and try to figure out if someone gets blown out, this guy might step into a play. As far as the standings go, Toronto's pretty comfortably in 4th. And I mean, prior to the Ibaka trade, they were contending for the top spot. And they're just really fallen. New York, I mean, if you could think what's going on with New York all season, you are probably a crazy person, but nobody can. I don't even think Spike Lee knows what the hell's going on. But, yeah, Portland or Denver, whichever makes that 8th seed against the Warriors, given that they take it to first, it's going to be a fun series.
We just went offline, Mike.
Is that my fault?
Mm-mm.
I just popped up here too. I still hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hang up and try calling me back.
Huh. That's weird.
All right, I hear you better.
Cool. Maybe it was just a dropped.
Let's see. Let's see if the stream's still going. So let's see if everything's good.
Hey. We're good now, Jack said. Cool.
All right. Sorry about that, guys.
That was weird.
I took the Mexican internet with me.
Oh, yeah, by the way, congrats to the USA winning the WBC.
Yeah, buddy. So, yeah, those are the 3 teams definitely going to look to avoid. So, with that said, fading Chris Paul tomorrow. I think we are targeting, out of these point guards, the only player on Memphis, so Mike mentioned the vets. We like Mike Conley. I think his price is pretty fair, too, $7,400. Dame is a must-play for us. I think me and Mike both agree on that. Dame, and he's priced up for that reason. There is no player over 10K on either site tomorrow. Dame is the most expensive on both. So you have that.
Yeah, so from a slate preview, very rarely do I have 20, which I do right now, 20 guys that I think are worthy of playing under 4.5 on DraftKings. In a 5-game slate, that's very unheard of, and we have nobody over 10K. It's going to make lineup building very interesting, and that's why you see huge price hike for Dame, huge price hike for DeRozan.
Yeah.
So that's why.
So Dame, Mike likes Jeremy Lin tomorrow against Phoenix, and that makes sense.
Granted, he plays.
Granted, he plays, yes. If he doesn't play, is Spencer Dinwiddie chalk?
See, he was chalk yesterday, and if he doesn't play, he's going to be huge chalk today. I'm telling you, I talk people off of Dinwiddie, and I apologize, but I'm telling you, it's still somewhat fluky. Also, if Lin plays, he only missed 1 game with an ankle sprain. That's not a serious ankle sprain, right?
Yeah.
I think he goes back to what he does. He's been waiting to play all season. So if he goes back into the starting lineup, I think you got to expect a full allotment of minutes from him against Phoenix. I like the fact that he's questionable. I think it'll help on a 5-game slate in a great spot. The Nets, man. Again, KJ McDaniels got hot in the first half. They just let him go. It's just how it works.
Yeah, that like we said, you know what you're going to get from the Nets in terms of playing time. It's just a matter of who's going to go off. So I go back to my Ferris wheel comment on that one, man. You get to kind of pick which one you ride.
Somebody saw my Vince Carter Nets jersey. Hey.
And then, so one other player who's pretty low priced relative, I guess, is Corey Joseph, and that's from Toronto. So 51 on DraftKings, 5K on FanDuel against Miami. Not a great matchup, but on a 5-game slate, Toronto playing for something. There's minutes there, I think.
I think it's a cash play. I think him and Conley are the cash plays as far as safety with minutes and production consistently. Problem with Corey Joseph, I think, is if this game blows out, they have Van Vliet and Delon Wright, and I don't think they'll hesitate to go there.
From shooting guard, Mike and I are extremely high on Wes Matthews. So 49 on DraftKings, 45 on FanDuel. I think even if Seth does play, that's a really good price for Wes, just based on upside. If Seth doesn't play, I think he's locked in on both sides.
Yeah, so another part about this strategy is games that I'm not targeting, finding the players in the best matchup. That's Wes Matthews tomorrow if Seth Curry doesn't play off Dallas. I think he's got the best matchup on his team. And I think he's underpriced, too.
Agree. Jamal Crawford, I think if you want to look at a punt, I think you can look there. He's not
or J.J. Redick. It's just
not my favorite
who
play.
Knows?
Tony Allen, so injury news there. He's questionable with the sore knee. There was a report that said he should be good to go, but still something to watch for.
Mm-hmm.
C.J. McCollum
if
against
Tony
New York.
Allen does not, if Tony Allen does not play, Selden started, played 16 minutes. Troy Daniels got an increased run, and then Vince Carter had 34 minutes, which doesn't happen with Vince Carter. So,
I think
with Kawhi on the court, I think you're going to have to see him big minutes again.
I think you're going to see Vince play quite a big load of minutes down the stretch, man.
Right, but that was not the plan.
No, I agree.
Going
obviously.
into the season.
I mean, he said he was going to retire at the end of this year.
Yeah, I've actually heard that he wants to play until he's 42.
Really? So now he's extending it. He's found his fountain of youth, that's for sure. Okay, so CJ McCollum, Mike didn't have him in his player pool. I actually really like CJ tomorrow, and I only say that because it's against New York. He's not my favorite shooting guard, and if I had to pick between him and Devin Booker, I'm going to pay down to Devin Booker because of the matchup. But I'm not opposed to a CJ call at all, especially on DraftKings at 7,200. 7,800 on FanDuel, a little pricier. But 7,200 on DraftKings, I think, is a fair price.
So my take on CJ, if you're a tournament player with Dame way too high comparatively to what, that's just too high of a price for Dame, right?
Yep.
And you want to fade that, I think the best possible pivot is CJ McCollum. If Dame doesn't play well, generally CJ will. And the opposite. We've seen throughout this recent stretch of Damian Lillard going off, rarely does CJ also go off. They're in definitely a prime spot for both of them to do it. If they both do it, I think CJ relative to his price is going to be the better play.
Yeah, and then so Devin Booker. On DraftKings, the decision is a lot harder between CJ and Devin Booker. And we both like Devin tomorrow. On FanDuel, the price difference is $900. I think that, again, given the matchup and the game, I like Devin Booker more. But on DraftKings, I think CJ is a good contrarian play because I do think more people will be on Devin Booker.
I'm curious what's going to happen with Booker tomorrow. He burned a lot of people against Miami coming back. With that ankle injury, he still played 30 minutes, but him, Ulis, Warren, all of those guys underperformed, and I think people are on them. So I'm curious to see what the ownership's like tomorrow against Brooklyn. It should be fine.
So Karis LeVert, obviously one of those value plays from Brooklyn. I think you can lump him in there with KJ McDaniels, Leandro Barbosa, and Josh Richardson and Wayne Ellington. Well, Josh Richardson's a little higher price than value, so let's go Wayne Ellington.
Yeah, I think LeVert and Vince Carter and Alan Crabb are the guys you're going to have to make the decision on, to be honest with you. I think that's how that's going to work. McDaniels is minimum salary, however. I'm I don't know. We saw increased run from McDaniel's last 2 games with Kilpatrick and Lynn not there. So if Lynn comes back, I think that kind of takes him off a little bit. But minimum salary, man, he doesn't have to do much to get value. And if he doesn't, he only gets you 10 points. For example, I played Briante Weber today, right? In the lineup that cashed me all that money. He only got me 8 points. Minimum salary guys aren't going to kill a winning lineup.
Exactly. They just have to come close to somewhat value.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, we looked at Wayne Ellington and Josh Richardson. Again, not being able to watch the games. I'm trying to catch up on him, but being in Mexico. How has he been playing without waiters?
The thing with Josh Richardson, he's been getting the start, which is not ideal. I like him much better off the bench. 35 minutes a game, though, for him at $5K is something you got to look at. The problem is he's just not producing relative to his price.
So with that,
he's still in play on a 5-game slate for the minutes he's playing, but
with that,
it's hard to.
In that game, I'd rather look at Tyler Johnson. Again, I like the guy that comes off the bench, and I'll take Tyler Johnson over Josh Richardson tomorrow.
See, I'm gonna go back to James Johnson and off Tyler Johnson because Tyler Johnson had a huge game last game. His price went up. People are going to be on him, and people are going to jump off James Johnson because they got burned.
Yep.
I watched that whole game, guys. The reason Tyler Johnson went off and James Johnson didn't that is why. Tyler Johnson went off, so James Johnson didn't, and they went small. They went small in that first half because Ellington was hitting his threes, hitting some shots. And so they went Richardson, Dragic, Tyler Johnson, Wayne Ellington, and that limited his minutes. If you look at the second half for what Tyler Johnson did, he had 35 fantasy points in the first half and 5 in the second half.
Yeah. I like both Johnsons tomorrow, but
I'm just saying if people are just looking at box scores, they're not going to know that.
I agree. You have to again. There's game script. So, again, I'm fading entire Dallas-LA game from the small forward perspective. I think Mike's with me on that. We look at Kawhi Leonard. Obviously, you have to consider Kawhi Leonard just because of what he's capable of, but it's been 3 straight games that he hasn't hit 40 points, at least DraftKings points, which obviously he hasn't hit 40 FanDuel points either. And the Spurs have no issue with resting him. Then you go to Vince Carter, 39-37, still very low price. Seems to have found a sudden kick, but he's still an older guy. There's still that risk of them resting him too. And if Tony Allen is back tomorrow, Vince Carter's workload should decrease a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Vince Carter played 35 minutes last game and didn't get 20 DraftKings points. So against Kawhi, who's to tell you that he's going to do better? Kawhi, I was talking to Kyle before the show, is a very intriguing play tomorrow because you're going to have the money to pay for him. He's been somewhat inconsistent, and he's playing Memphis, and his price is low. So people are going to have the money to pay for Kawhi. I like on an 8-game slate, I don't think anybody would consider him, but because there's no one high-priced, his price is low. You know what I'm saying? I think it's an intriguing play, whether you lock or fade him.
I think he's going to be chalked tomorrow just because of the amount of studs or lack thereof on the slate. But this is a terrible game, man. This is just an ugly fantasy game all around. I don't think you want a lot of exposure from this game, but the way this NBA season's gone, I wouldn't be surprised if the winning lineup has a stack in this game. Carmelo, who knows what's going on there. Apparently he wasn't supposed to get over 25 minutes, and sure enough, that didn't happen. That's New York for you.
35 minutes today.
Going to stay away from that still, though. TJ Warren against Brooklyn. No need to really go into depth there. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, who's a power forward on DraftKings, small forward on FanDuel. I absolutely love that he's still a small forward on FanDuel, only because small forward is the weakest spot, in my opinion, tomorrow on FanDuel.
Yeah, and he's going up against Marquise Chris at power forward. I think you throw him in that same pool with LeVert and Alan Crabb and
Yep.
Vince Carter, Lance Thomas, Noah Vonleh. He's with all those guys, in my opinion.
And here's what I want to add to that. With Vince Carter being 37, 39, I think if you can, you find a way to pay up to Rondae Hollis Jefferson tomorrow. Rather, on
Yeah.
FanDuel at least, on FanDuel, rather than Vince Carter. It's $600 more, but the matchup is immensely better for Rondae Hollis Jefferson. Immensely.
Yeah, and this is a huge part of my strategy. I just kind of look at it like who's the better player and who's playing the worst team.
Yep.
Don't get like too crazy about it. Like I think Hollis Jefferson's a better player than Vince Carter right now, and I think he's playing a worse team against the Suns
Yep.
relative to the Spurs. So it's just if you're coming down to like a tiebreaker, just do that. Who's the better player?
Yep. Better player. Another thing you can look at is nationally televised games. That's always a good one. And like Mike said, worst team. So
Worst team.
for power forward, man, Blake Griffin. Obviously, you have to look there. So not my favorite play to pay up for tomorrow. I think he'll be one of the lower owned studs on the slate. I think you're going to see Dame and Kawhi as the top two, and then Blake will be in there. Again, not I don't want a lot of exposure from this game, so I'm personally will fade Blake, but Blake can have his way against Dallas. Dirk, something to consider. Not my favorite play either.
Yeah, I'm fading that game other than like a couple plays. Like we mentioned Wesley Johnson. Wesley Johnson. No, not him. Wesley Matthews. And I like maybe going Redick in a tournament.
Mike mentioned LaMarcus Aldridge to me. He actually likes LaMarcus more than Kawhi.
Relative to price.
Relative to price. So from a points to price ratio, LaMarcus Mike likes more, which makes sense.
Again, I don't want to pay up in this game at all. If I had to,
Go
that's what I would
LaMarcus.
do. But I've hated playing LaMarcus all season.
Yeah.
If he goes off tomorrow, I'll bite it. But if you have been on him and kind of hit his good games, which I have not, I think it's a nice little spot for him.
So
He played well against them a couple days ago.
in that same price range, you have KP6, who, again, I think is a better player this year, as Mike mentioned. Is in a better matchup against Portland, and I think is a better matchup game-wise and position-wise in terms of if Melo truly is limited, it's on a back-to-back. They've talked about resting Melo. Derrick Rose is potentially out. He's injured. Was spotted wearing a brace, but he did return to the game. But still, with New York nothing to play for, might rest him. Who knows? That leaves KP6. So
Yeah, I mentioned the lock show with New York today. Rose is in a contract year. He wants an exorbitant amount of money. The Knicks aren't going to give it to him. So I feel like if anybody, he's the guy that's safe for minutes, granted that he's healthy. They don't really care, in my opinion. They're just going to let him run it out. They have no reason to rest him. However, they played all five starters 35 minutes today, or 30-plus minutes today. So I think you just have to assume going forward they are. It is a back-to-back. Rose did tweak his ankle, so all things considered.
And with news of Melo. So I don't know. Just something to consider. The only one that the only safe play I think from New York is Kristaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say anybody's safe off New York. I don't know that I'm going to go there. However, I did want to bring this up to you. I think I saw one spot here that's tough.
Okay.
So T.J. Warren, James Johnson, and KP6 are all the same price today. Now you can make the case for all three of them. How would you rank them and why?
James Johnson, 1. I think without Serge Ibaka, you're going to go... We used to love targeting Toronto's power forward situation, right? So who you got? Patrick Patterson.
Right. PJ Tucker probably is going to come in the mix. They could go small. They could put DeMar Carroll there and play some Powell.
PJ Tucker could pose a problem. So that kind of could worry me a little bit. But I like James Johnson for his usage, his role in that offense. And again, you mentioned he had a bad game, right? It happens.
7K on DraftKings, though, is as high as I've seen him.
Mm-hmm. And again, I think everyone is priced up on this slate. So James Johnson 1 to me. I go T.J. Warren because of the matchup. And then I go Kristaps.
Okay. I'm gonna go T.J. Warren 1, just because even though I think him and James Johnson are both priced up at 7K, and Porzingis is safely priced against the Brooklyn power forward spot or the small forward power forward spot. I think he's all right to go with.
Okay.
Now, generally, we've seen the point guards and centers really eat against Brooklyn, so perhaps it's a reason to fade Warren. And then James Johnson, I would go with next. I would put KP6 last just because I'm not comfortable with the Knicks situation right now. And again,
Agree.
that's kind of the strategy I've been going with. If I'm not comfortable with what's going on with the team and I just don't play it. There's no reason to play it, in my opinion. James Johnson is getting a bump to me because I don't like the PJ Tucker thing. That scares me. It's what made me have him below TJ Warren. But I like the fact he dud last game. People are going to be off of him. And the fact that Hassan Whiteside has got 13 stitches in his hand.
Yep.
I was trying to find this today. I couldn't tell where the injury was on his hand. If it's on the palm of his hand, that's very concerning, right? 13 stitches in the palm of your hand. How do you play basketball? So, something to look into. Again, if Hassan Whiteside's listed as probable to play, but if he can't, James Johnson gets another bump.
Last two guys I want to mention, Marquise Chris and Trevor Booker, both in good spots playing against each other. I actually lean Trevor Booker in this matchup because I love targeting the Phoenix front court. We've seen what guys like Scal, Labissiere can do, so and he's cheaper. So I think, especially on DraftKings, $1,000 price difference. Although Marquise Chris has been playing really well as of late, but I think I still lean Booker.
The Booker call to me somewhat hinges on Allen Williams. I think if Allen Williams is back, they do a front court with Len and Williams. I think they're going to have to play Booker more. But if they don't have Allen Williams, I think it could pave the way to go somewhat small for Brooklyn. So we'll see.
Lastly, you got centers. I think this is the deepest position on the slate. We got DeAndre Jordan against Dallas. It's to be considered, right? Not my favorite, but FanDuel, I fade him completely. DraftKings, you got to look at him, 6,700. Nerlens Duel, super cheap on DraftKings, 4,600. That is a steal to me. If he gets his minutes, that's a steal, and he'll put up those. He'll hit value guaranteed. Marc Gasol, 7,000. I think him is on FanDuel, 7,700. To me, personally, I go Marc Gasol over DeAndre Jordan. You agree?
Yeah, I do. I don't like either of these guys, though. I don't have either of them in my player pool. But just to talk about them, Jordan, I don't have anything to say about Jordan, honestly. Gasol, he's a great player. He's a great player in any given matchup. He struggled against the Spurs this year. That's why I don't have him in my... But he's a great player who's underpriced on the 5-game slate. So you got to consider him. Noel hasn't been getting his minutes. He's struggling to get to 22 minutes in the last 4 games. If they play Blake and DeAndre, I think there's an argument to be made that they're going to need him to play more minutes.
I don't think you can match up. I don't think you match up Dirk for 35 minutes, 30 minutes. The whole. I agree. Noel should play tomorrow. But again, we mentioned missing both those games completely because there's guys around those same price points that are in much better matchups. Mostly, Joseph Nurkic, absolutely great spot against New York, right? 7,600. I'll find a way. Well, on FanDuel, I actually pay down from both Jordan and Gasol. On DraftKings, I find a way to get up there. I also look at Hernan Gomez from New York against Portland. Someone to look at. I know you're looking at him as well. Really cheap. And then, actually, my favorite center on this slate, Mike, is Brook Lopez.
Yeah. Trust the DVP. Again, that's another big part of my process. I look at the teams. I look at who has the best fantasy matchup based on DVP over the last 10 games. I look into that DVP to see which teams have played them, and I see which players have performed well. And if that player, reminds me of a Brook Lopez, for example, I just fire it up. Yeah. Been making a living off of the front court in Philadelphia over the past 2 weeks. So Suns the same way. They've been giving it up to centers. Brook Lopez is playing well, so I like him. I think I'd rather play him over DeAndre. I'd rather play Nurkic over Gasol, but I think I'm not alone. I think everybody's going to feel the same way. So, can we fade those guys?
Who, Nurkic and
Lopez.
I don't think
Thing is,
Lopez is chalk tomorrow. I really don't. I think guys are going to go after Nurkic more. And I think people are going to pay down to an Alex Len or an Alan Williams. I don't think Brook
yeah,
Lopez is chalk tomorrow. I think
especially on FanDuel.
I think he's too highly priced with the other guys with a Kawhi and a Dame that I don't think he's going to be chalk tomorrow, which actually I really like.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that all of the ownership at center is going to be subs 30 on a 5-game slate, which is all right. If you want a super punt, I think obviously Willie Reed. They priced him up thinking that Hassan Whiteside was going to miss the game.
I was just going to say
Alan Williams plays. If Alan Williams plays, I like him against the Nets. I think he's underpriced at 5,700. His role is pretty stable. He doesn't really get 30 minutes, but he doesn't really need to. He's a points per minute guy. Like you said, Alex Len's cheap.
I like Alex Len more than Alan Williams. Especially on DraftKings, $1,200 price difference.
Yeah.
Jakob Portal?
Jakob Podol, he has become the backup center. Bebe. Bebe is no longer. He's jumped Bebe in the role. He looked good too. I know the box score is not going to say he looked good, but from watching the game, he looked pretty good out there in the first half, at least from what I watched. Minimum salary guy. If you're into that, I like Noah Vonleh as a punt. He's not a center. He's a power forward, but we just didn't talk about him. I think Noah Vonleh is in a very good spot. He's been getting great minutes out of Portland, and he's returned value in 4 straight, and all pretty good teams, too. So against the Knicks, a bad team, maybe this is the one he goes off and not just returns value.
Okay. I don't know if I can jump on the Vonleh train. I just don't see upside from him. But I guess on a 5-game slate, you got to get creative. Jason Terry was on the late slate winning GPP tonight, so.
Hey, you. I'm just saying, minutes have been there, man. He's jumped. Aminu's like barely playing minutes, so against New York.
No, that's fair.
I don't see a reason not to go there.
No, you're definitely right. I mean, I think this is one of the reasons I struggle so much with GPPs, and I was telling Mike about this. I don't have that creative ability to, maybe I don't have that creative bankroll either, but to think outside the box of like, shit, Jason Terry, why not throw him in a line? I would have never thought of Jason Terry, ever. And so, I mean, credit to you if you do. I just don't have that ability. I don't think that way. And that's probably one of the reasons why I'm a better cash player than I am a GPP player. Yeah, I just don't have that knack for finding those really punty plays.
Again, I think value is becoming more and more important too down the stretch here because people are getting extra run for teams that are out of it or in contention that are in blowouts. And we're seeing a lot more blowouts in the NBA because of all this. So with game script comes value. Try to predict the game script and predict your value because of it. I think you'll be successful if you watch these games and try to figure out who's in favor with the coaches off the bench.
No, you're right. So, well, as always, man, we got, 9 games? 9 games till baseball? 9 days?
Oh, my God. It cannot come soon enough. Baseball is around the corner, guys.
So,
if you guys want in to a season-long baseball league, hit me up. Like, we are running these leagues. It's going to be a lot of fun. You guys dictate the parameters for them. And excited. Just hit me up if you want to in the league. I'll take this time to... You got something to say?
No, go ahead. Do your thing.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna shout out the winners. I won't on DraftKings because that was me. Sorry to those who tried to compete. You know, what are you gonna do?
Mike's just running things right now.
It's been a good stretch. FanDuel, however, I can't seem to figure out, man. I cannot figure out FanDuel. It's just a testament. I've been playing DraftKings for a couple of years now, so I've just started playing FanDuel a couple months ago. So it takes a while. It really does. It takes a while to really figure out. Anyway, top line, DZ McFly. You've taken it down, sir. I appreciate. I'm sure this was a long-awaited thing.
He's in Slack every day, by the way.
That's right. 314.4 was the winning lineup. Let me just make sure that was correct. Yes, it was. 314.4 was the winning lineup. He did not have Giannis, so props to you. He had Laverne and Mirotic, which I also did that as well. He went super value with that. He had Zipser in there as well, who returned value at minimum salary. Russell Westbrook, John Wall. So a good line from you, sir. And for those of you that are playing in these tournaments every day, we are in the final week. The final week of the contests. And if you would like to know where you stand, hit me up. If you'd like to know what it means to be in the top 8, hit me up. I'll let you know. Prizes, obviously. We are sending out a swag pack to those who take down the tournaments at the end here.
Yeah, and as Mike mentioned, get in these baseball leagues, man. They are filling up. Jeffrey already said he is interested for the baseball league. So if you are, send Mike an email or myself an email. You can either email us at Fantasy Phenom or email Mike at moneymиkedfs@gmail.com.
That's right.
We'll get you in there a bunch of different options. If you're in the free Facebook group, which if you're not, join that. There is a link posted in there with all the details with the league breakouts and whatnot. Also, March Madness is coming to an end, so we'll have that winner soon. I can tell you it's not me. I had Duke.
I'm still in play. We'll see what happens down the stretch here.
Any other news? I mean, it's good to be back. Vacation was nice. I wish I could have gotten more shows up. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi was way too choppy, so I apologize about being gone. But definitely nice to be back. I felt empty without the show. Again, gearing up for baseball, man. I can't stress enough. If you guys are struggling with basketball like I am, gear up. Just cash in basketball and gear up for baseball, man.
Yep. I'm ready to get kind of settled into a routine with baseball as well. So it's going to be a learning experience like every year is. But I implore you guys to learn with us. And
I'm excited for baseball. I'm excited for baseball because it's all numbers, man. Baseball is numbers to a T. And if there's one thing I do well, it's numbers.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we'll be there to kind of break down who's new to the fantasy spectrum, I guess. Every year there's always a nice, solid group of newcomers to become fantasy relevant to the baseball scene. So we'll bring you guys up to speed quickly, as quickly as we can.
Couple questions. So Lanza asked, is Whiteside more likely in or out? There's no solid news.
I have him listed as probable. He did get stitches. Again, 13 stitches in his hand. It kind of all just depends, man. The fact that he's probable means that I feel like it's not in a spot that will affect his game.
And then, Bonnell asked, is baseball easier to win tournaments? I don't know if it's easier. I think there are less sharks in baseball. And I think baseball is an entirely different strategy. I think there's more research involved, but I think it's also, I don't know. How would you describe it?
Well, there is more variance in baseball than any other DFS sport. So it's really hard to play cash if you are new to baseball.
That's fair.
Because there's so much variance that if you don't really know what you're doing, you are competing against the sharks that have locked down how to limit the variance.
And with that said, you look at someone like Mike Trout, right? So Mike Trout you could compare to in baseball with a LeBron James in basketball. LeBron James in basketball will never get you less than 30 points a game. Mike Trout can go 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts and get you 0 points.
Yeah, Mike Trout, I looked it up. Mike Trout has scored 0 points. Scored 0 points in DFS last year, 18% of his games.
Yep. So that alone, again, there is no safe floor how there is in basketball. So
There's stats that lead you in that direction as to what's a cash play, what's a tournament play, obviously, but it's getting those stats down, getting a lineup building process down, before you really can just throw lineups and cash confidently.
agree. And I think more than basketball, it's so we're going to change up the style in which we do our shows for baseball. So look forward to that. But you'll want to tune in because I think it's more than just box scores in baseball. 100%. Right? You have to be on top of that guy. That if a Bryce Harper or Mike Trout is in a slump, he's just 1 for his last 20, 3 for his last 30 in the last 10 games. His price is going to drop to reflect it, right? If you just look at the box score, you're not going to know when he's coming out of that slump. If you watch the games or at least get a recap and you see that, Mike Trout went 1 for 4 with 3 line drive outs, right? 3 solid hits into the outfield, but were caught. He's coming out of his slump, right? It's coming. And so you want to jump on that depressed price. And that goes for any player, right? Any player is going to drop in price as they're in a slump. And so it's finding those guys. That's how you win the tournaments in baseball. It's finding the guys that are coming out of their slumps at a depressed price.
Yep, and we are going to bring you on a journey in the beginning of the season of establishing a winning strategy, and the only really way to do that is to take, some sort of the strategies that we bring to you and employ them in playing. So it's going to be a conjoined effort. We're going to bring you different strategies and different stats to look at, and you are going to have to practice. You're going to have to practice building lineups using these strategies and understanding these stats. Just by building lineups and putting them in a quarter contest or a dollar contest or the free contest that we have.
Yep.
So if you just use our free contest and try and understand the strategy that we're giving you and understand these stats and methods that we're doing it, and you do it every day, I guarantee by the end of April, you're going to have your own process. So the month of April, for you guys, for us, for the Phenom community, it's going to be,
Test
I guess, it's just going to be test building. It's going to be getting to know these stats, getting to know the strategies, and finding out what works best for you.
Agree. So, and by the way, we'll have more baseball videos in the coming days. We have those planned on different ways. So obviously we started with the different scorings on FanDuel and DraftKings. So expect some follow-up videos on those in the coming days before the season actually gets underway. So thank you guys for tuning in again. It is great to be back. Hopefully you guys had a successful night as well. Look forward to talking to you all on Slack. As always, pro member or not, join that Facebook group right there, the Fantasy Phenom movement. If you would like to become a pro member, you get a 7-day free trial. After that, if you decide to stick on, 33 cents a day, $10 a month. You get everything. And if not, just cancel that 7 days. No harm, no foul. Still watch the videos. We appreciate that support as well. So, thank you guys again. Have a wonderful night. We will talk to you later.